Hello, people of the internet. How are you all doing? I hope you're all well. Welcome to Victoria 2, January 1st, 1836. A time in which the world was dawning into a new era, the industrial era, the era of liberalism, imperialism and nationalism, and all the different tendrils to do with those sorts of things. A very, very interesting era for me, certainly, as a historian, and just generally, it is kind of the birth of our modern civilization. This was mostly centered around the continent in which you see in front of you, but today we're not interested in that at all. We're interested in something of a opposition to European imperialism. The idea of Pan-Asianism. Pan-Asianism. That doesn't quite sound right, but it is right, to bear with me. It was an idea that all of Asia should be united under one banner to combat the encroaching European settlers. This was strongest in the island nation of Japan, where they'd long had imperial ambitions and so on and so on and so on, and this really started to take root in the late 19th century, 20th century. I'm sure you'll realise. I'm sure you'll know about the whole War of the Pacific, and so on and so on and so on. Now, I did a game as Japan not too long ago. In fact, I did a different one on this channel a very long time ago. That was in an old version of the game with no DLC whatsoever, and I had no idea how to play the game. And then more recently, I did another one. We got up to quite near the end of the game. I think it was 1916. The game ends in 1926. I think might be a bit later. Maybe 1930 time-ish. And that was going all right. We had I ended up with most of China, a bit of India, and some of Africa. You know what? I'll just show you. The Empire of Japan in 2nd of April 1916. We spread all the way through Mongolia here. We've got all of Manchuria, fair amount of Eastern Asia, Eastern China, just here, and then we dominate Southern Asia as well. Dai Dam is our puppet, and then we wobble over across the Japanese Africa. We own a good portion of Eastern Africa. With some ports down here, and we even own Egypt, which I was quite proud of. And in fact, we have this very small amount of India, because I thought I was going to focus more on India, and that herein lies the issue, right? As you can see, I didn't really focus. I was all over the world, all over the place. I feel like if I focus on just Asia, just taking out China, dominating Asia, that we will actually do a lot better. We did pretty well here. 3rd in the world with by far the largest military. Look, we've got more than double the German army, and they're mobilized right now. But I think we can do better. So I have come back to the beginning to try again, and this time I shall bring you along for the ride. Just because why the hell not? I like talking to myself. So now, looking here, the military situation looks pretty dire compared to what I'm used to. Of course, we've just got 6 armies here of 3 units of irregular. They don't even have leaders at all or anything. We have no leadership whatsoever. But it appears that we can recruit quite a lot of guys here. A major dilemma we have is that we only have one ship, one clipper transport. Because we are a island nation, as I say, we're going to need transport ships to get literally anywhere. So we're going to want to build as many of these as we want, which is fine. I mean, that's how many? That's 6. That's 6 right there. So we can take 2 units. Well, two of these armies in one, and that'll be totally fine. It'll be 7, maybe just one more there as well to bring it up to a nice round 8. I'm sure that's 8. That's roundish. But the issue is that, well, we're an uncivilized nation, very low. We don't have a lot of prestige. In fact, we have no prestige at all, and buying and selling of goods is entirely based on your prestige. So it's totally up to chance whether we get any of this at all, really, these clipper convoys here, because we can't produce them. We have to buy them from outside. Now, yes, so we are an uncivilized nation here, and how you become civilized, quote unquote, is you have to do all of these reforms here, and that requires getting a research cost if it ever pops up. Yep, so that one costs 7,000, right? Foreign training methods, 7,000 again. Most of these will be 7,000, and you get more expensive ones down this way. Yeah, 14,000, and so on. And you have to fill this bar. So we're currently at 0% westernization, which yeah, that's quite a climb. But last time I did it quite early, so I'm quite confident. What we can also do is the early Meiji restoration, and also the Meiji restoration. What? Okay, so they both do the same thing, like exactly the same thing, but this one requires being in a sphere of influence, you see. But that one will give us a lot of militancy, as in, well, that translates roughly into revolt risk, but the bottom one doesn't, the one that requires us being in a sphere of influence. So Japan is traditionally considered to be founded by Emperor Jimmu in 660 BC. So quite a long time then. And while the imperial lineage was still considered unbroken since then, the imperial office had throughout the Edo period been reduced to a revered and respected but ultimately politically powerless institution. I feel like there should be some punctuation in there somewhere. By embracing a restoration of imperial rule along with a program of swift industrial modernization, sounds good to me, constitutionalism and economic freedom, Japan might be able to break the fetters placed upon her by the impositions of the Western world. That sounds pretty good to me. Now, speaking of research points, we have national focus. Now, for that, what I want to do is really to put that as clergyman. And that will encourage greater education. And also, we're going to pump the education spending right up to full. Which is going to cause us issues. Okay, we can't tax any lower than that. We're just going to tax the ever-loving shit out of all of our people, I think. Not 100%, because that's absolutely abhorrent. We're going to do that, and then we're going to lower military, I think. Oh, that's next to nothing, isn't it? What we can do to equal our budget here is to increase the tariff to 100%. This is basically an extra cost on things that are imported. So it'll go up as we import more things, which I imagine we will import more things as we go on. And I mean, personally, I'm sort of in favour of protectionism anyway. So there you go. We are going to lower maybe not that much. Maybe we'll lower... no, administration isn't even that much. Military spending for now. Yeah, military spending for now while we're not at war, and we'll lower the tariff just a bit. Okay, there we go. One last thing before we do actually finally begin the game here is I do want to enact this. There you go. I had a bit of a think about it. So this also activates the land reform. So that'll increase farming efficiency, mining efficiency, and give us a bit of progress towards civilizing. Let's do it. There you go. The early Meiji restoration. Now, we will have got some militancy for that. Yeah, 6 militancy. But that'll be alright. That'll be alright. Okay, so without further ado, there's been plenty of ado, I think. We are actually just going to unpause now. There we are. First day. Awesome. Losing money, making money. It's all good. Now, the middle class are suffering. I'm thinking I'm going to decrease their taxes there. They're mostly suffering because of the tariff, so they have to import most of the goods that they use. But we're going to keep the tariff there, as it is what's keeping us afloat, really. Oh! Our transports are actually building. We're actually getting convoys. So now that they've begun to build, I think it's time to think about our army. So our army is right now just a load of collections of irregular soldiers. Irregular soldiers are pretty crap, really. What we want to be getting to is, yeah, the infantry, which is twice as good. Oh yeah, twice as good. Pretty much exactly twice. Now we don't get them. It's not very far until we get them. So I'm actually going to build a whole load of cavalry, because we don't get dragoons or cuirassiers or anything like that for quite a while. So I'm going to go ahead and just build loads of cavalry. You see how cavalry work is, well, in battle they obviously occupy the flanks as they do. So you want to have pairs of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so that's pairs, and then we'll do some more pairs. But also they have this value called reconnaissance, right? It's just 1 for the ordinary cavalry, but that improves occupation speed. You see, so it's always useful to have these, especially for early game, especially when you're an uncivilized nation, and they're already on the way to being built. Lovely! All of our clippers are now building, so what we can do, in fact, is initiate a rather wonderful little feature of the game, which is this little button down here. If I tick this, that, as you see there, with all these all these crazy tentacles and tendrils and lines, will make, well, every ship that we're building will go to here. It will go to Nagasaki. First ship's coming in. That's 2 of them, and now it's really not going to be very long until we get some more. Looking up here, we already have 6,500 accumulated research points already, so this is actually going to go very, very quick. That's nice, that's nice. All the tea in Japan. The tea harvest is unusually large this year, and nowhere is larger than Toyama. This is of personal significance to me. Of course, I drink tea whenever I record, so... brimming with freshly picked leaves of wonderful smelling tea. Marvellous. I'm going to go for let the farmers keep some. I generally do that because money will be okay. We don't really need much of a stockpile of tea. And it loses militancy and consciousness. So yeah, if we just pick them, then we should be able to lower this down quite nicely. Look at this. Glorious. All of these people on horses just sort of standing around and not doing a lot. I'm thinking that we're just going to group these guys all together in one. Maybe in wherever this is. Osaka? Sure. Aha! Okay, so here we go. We can unlock our first reform, not using decisions. And it is going to be... oh god, piss off. Foreign training methods here. So that gives us land organization, so that's basically morale, I suppose, and also it gives us more research points when you conquer. So you see, when you take over the land as a uncivilized nation, you get their research points, so you get research points. So right now, we're going to do that, and it's 10% more, so we are now at 25%, quarter of the way there. Not bad at all. Now, we're more than a year in at this point. And where do we stand? We've got a decent amount of a military here. We have 8 ships, 8 carrier ships, all of which are taking attrition. We have a decent amount of cavalry, and we have upgraded our training methods using the example of our Western visitors. Now, why do we need this massive army right off the bat? Now, I think this may be a little bit risky, but I'm planning on declaring war on the Chinese as quickly as possible here, to hopefully take this province here, the Shandong area, which is funny because it looks like a dong, which has, you know, a lot of population, and then it's just got some basic stuff in terms of resources. It's got wheat and so on and so on. But it would be nice to take, just to have this one on the other side of the Yellow Sea here, to give us a bit of a launching point, I guess, to begin our unification of Asia. Now, China is often a bit of a pushover, despite having a massive population. They're often a bit of a population. No, they're often a bit of a pushover for Western nations because their units are just so much better than the Chinese units, you see. But we are still an uncivilized nation here, so we still have the same crap units as them, and they have 103 brigades, while we have 30. And of course we have the same tech as them. We can now build a lot more units, but I want to wait until we have unlocked actual infantry. So if we look here, the infantry, which you unlock after you get flintlock rifles, are twice as good as the irregulars that we currently have. Now this imported weapons reform, military reform here, costs 6,750 research points. We currently have 2,000-ish, 2,200 right there, which is going up quite quickly, but it's still going to take quite a while to get there. Ooh, here we go. The coronation of Queen Victoria on the 28th of June 1838. So a few days early. Princess Alexandria Victoria of the House Hanover ascended to the throne of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland as Queen Victoria. Her reign would last even a few years into the 20th century and would later be remembered as the absolute zenith of the British Empire. Indeed, upon which the sun never set. The last British monarch of the House of Hanover, her ascension also marked the end of the personal union between Britain and Hanover. Today, a jubilant crowd in London has escorted the young Queen Victoria to her residence in the newly built Buckingham Palace. Ah yes, good bit of British history there. The whole thing being, of course, the focus of many conservative, dreary-eyed, teary-eyed, forlorn looking into the past. It's all very silly and a bit silly. But yes, that's actually how the Kingdoms United came to be. Was by agreeing a personal union with the German House of Hanover. This is Hanover right here, which is why our current royal family is technically a German family. You see, of course that was the way most of the royal families in Europe were fairly inbred and God knows what throughout all of history. But it's also why the Kaiser of Germany, Kaiser Wilhelm, was cousins with King George. Now, I believe it was during the First World War that the royal family actually changed their name to Windsor instead of Hanover, so as to sound less German, because of course the Hun was the almighty enemy of the goodness of Britain and her allies. Although her allies were her mortal enemies just a few months before. But, you know, politics. Now, an issue we have with all this waiting around is that our ships here take attrition. You see, because we can't quite get the materials that they need for upkeep, they do keep taking attrition. And then when they're not taking attrition, they can't re-heal, because they can only repair, would be the sensible way of putting that. The only way for them to repair is at a naval base, and we don't have naval bases as of yet. I don't believe we do. No, we don't have any naval bases anywhere. So that's a problem. We just continually take attrition and then can't repair from the attrition. So that means we're only at 21% health right now, and we're just over halfway there.